Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. I also have a self-study mini course, Telepathically Connect with Your Specific Person. So if you guys are interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. Today's video is for all of you who are on the journey of manifesting your specific person and who might be getting discouraged, who might be feeling demotivated to even try in the first place to practice getting into the state of the wish fulfilled. To those of you who might feel it's pointless, things are not changing, there is no movement in the 3D, well, I'm here to tell you guys that things will change, things are going to change with your specific person because that is the law of nature. So your current situation with your specific person, no matter how desperate or hopeless it might feel to you, is going to change because it has to change. It has no choice but change. So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So I know that the manifesting journey for most people is a roller coaster, especially if you're manifesting a specific person who you're emotionally invested in, you feel like the stakes are so high. And I know that many of you are in a state of having practiced for a while and yet not seeing any movement yet, or no change in the 3D. Or because you have seen no change, you might even be feeling very demotivated or very inclined to say that this whole thing is pointless. Why should I even try? Why should I even practice getting into the state of the wish fulfilled? And I know that many of you are telling yourselves right now, things are never going to change for me. I'm not seeing any movement. Nothing is happening. It's pointless. Why should I even continue doing this? Well, the reason I wanted to make this video was to explain to you guys that this is actually a big illusion. Things with your specific person are changing as we speak. And the reason for that is there is nothing static in nature. There is nothing that doesn't change, even if it might not feel like it for us because we are used to observing the 3D in linear time. And the changes might be so tiny for the human eye and for the human brain to comprehend that it truly feels like there is no change. However, this is not true. And I want to remind you all of the fifth Hermetic principle, which is the principle of rhythm. I'm not going to go into depth into that, but essentially what this principle says is that everything in nature changes and nothing stays static. Moment to moment, everything changes, everything moves, everything flows. And this, you guys, applies to all things. It doesn't only apply to nature, it applies to relationships, it applies to our thoughts, it applies to our feelings, it applies to the human mind, it applies to our opinions, it applies to our attitudes, it applies to pretty much everything in this 3D life. And I'm sure you've observed that in yourself as well, where you might be feeling fine and calm and fantastic one moment, and then the next moment you get a certain thought that ruins your mood, that brings up some fears or some insecurities or some doubts, and then all of a sudden you find yourself into a very different state that is the complete opposite to where you were just a moment before. And the reverse is also true, by the way. You might be having a very bad day and then something happens, something good, something unexpected, and your mood immediately changes. So where you were a moment before is not where you are a moment later. So I want you to keep that in mind. And next time you start worrying about seeing no movement, next time you are demotivated, next time you are inclined to give up and telling yourself there's no change, there is no movement, remind yourself and realize that all this no change narrative is a big illusion because from moment to moment to moment, from one moment to the next, there is actually change. And that is always the case, no exceptions. And so what that specifically means for your situation with your SP is that as soon as your energies change, as soon as your inner dominant states change, there is change. There is immediate change. You might not be able to see it in the 3D because, as I said earlier in the video, a lot of these changes are so tiny, that the human mind and the human eye cannot possibly process them as such, as a change. However, they are still there. The change is still there. So I want you to always remember that, and always remind yourself that there is always change in your situation with your specific person. Even if it's not visible to you yet, there is always change in nature, there is always change in people's states, there is always change in people's states of mind and people's state of being. So it is actually impossible for there not to be a change in your situation and in your experience with your specific person. Every moment, from one moment to the next, there is change, you guys. And that is why I and so many other coaches tell you to persist, because we know that sooner or later, this change is going to become big enough and visible enough that you are going to be able to experience it as long as you persist in your new desired reality. Essentially, if you embody your new reality, if you persist in it, if you keep revisiting it, if you are regular with it and consistent with it, there is no way there's not going to be change in your 3D, and change that sooner or later you are going to be able to see and experience. But in the meantime, and while you are frustrated, while you are annoyed, while you are demotivated, while you are disappointed perhaps or discouraged, I want you to always remind yourselves that there is always change. At this moment that we're speaking, at this moment that you're watching this video, there is change in your situation with your SP. The next moment is also bringing change, and the moment after that is also bringing change, and so on. There is always change because nothing is static in life, nothing is static in nature. There is always change, one moment to the next, every new moment is different, is a different moment. Life itself is not static, life itself changes moment to moment. And so it is absolutely impossible for there not to be any change in your situation with your SP. If everything else is moving, everything else is changing, nothing is static, do you think that your relationship with your SP is going to remain static? Do you think that there's not going to be change? Do you think that there is no difference moment to moment, even if you cannot see it yet? There is pretty much no way that you cannot have change in your relationship with your specific person. And there is no way, it's impossible that you are not going to experience that change sooner or later. Your job is to remain as consistent as possible in the new reality that you're creating with your SP. And I promise you, change is already here, change is already coming, change is already present, even if it's so tiny that you can't see it yet. And in time, it's going to become big enough for you to see it and experience it with your senses in this 3D reality. So don't despair, don't feel discouraged, don't give up. If this is something that you really want, remind yourself that change is here right now, and change is happening all the time, moment to moment to moment, from one moment to the next, and that it's impossible for it to be any other way. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.